Wrath, anger, and grump. These are 3 words you could use to describe the Jeremiad podcast to your next of kin. And today, we live up to that mantra. For today, we discuss a topic that should bring no end of irk to man. This phenomenon that has become increasingly popular in the modern surrounds of the capitalistic hellhole in which we find ourselves and the world over has come at quite a detrimental cost. And it's probably ingrained itself more in certain human behaviours and activities than people would like to admit. There is a certain theory discussing this, is there not, Mr. Tom?
There is, yeah. I actually think it's a bit of an understatement to say that social media has just become popular. It has become life itself. It has infiltrated almost every section of society.
Mm-hmm.
There is actually an interesting theory for this. This was coined in an article in The Atlantic back in 2012, actually. It's a sort of notion of what Nathan Jurgensen dubbed the Facebook eye, which is basically this sort of idea that social media has become so deeply ingrained into our brains and our thoughts and our everyday lives that we can't view life, we can't think about events and activities without also conceiving it through the lens of social media. So for example, say like you go to a restaurant, you're not really thinking so much about the food you're going to have and the drinks and the conversation, but you're thinking about the social media posts that you're going to be able to create. You know, when you get your food and you're going to take a picture of it, you're going to get a picture of you and all your friends holding up your drink glasses with your fake smiles, toasting. Or if you go on holiday, for example, you're not thinking so much about the holiday, you're thinking about how you're going to take all the pictures of you on the beach, being like, oh, not bad for a Tuesday afternoon kind of crap, whilst you flex on Facebook and say, look at me, with that smug smile on your face. And you're not really, you can't enjoy the holiday without just incessantly taking pictures of it and posting it and flexing it for social media. So it's kind of this idea that now the practice of documenting, you know, your life has become so commonplace and normalized that like we actually simply, a lot of us can't conceive doing things without actually then posting it onto social media in some form. And so we've kind of lost the enjoyment of an event itself no longer matters. You know, it's
secondary, isn't it?
It is. The event itself and actually the experience of, you know, living that event, of experiencing it effectively is secondary to being able to post it. It's like there was a recent video that was doing the rounds around New Year of the New Year countdown in Paris.
Oh, yes, I've seen it.
And it was just a crowd of people, and almost every single one of them had their phone out to record the moment that the clock hit 0 and the fireworks all went off and we welcome in 2024. And it's like those people, they're not recording that to look back at that later and sort of, you know, record it for their own little memories and smile and sort of, oh yeah, I remember that countdown in Paris. It's to post it on their Instagram story to show people that they're out doing things. And then the people in turn will click on their Instagram story and they'll see about the 5th video of the same thing. They'll look at it for a second and they'll move on to the next one because they don't really care. And that's like the ironic thing. It's sort of like, it's these people doing it because they think they have to, but then no one actually really cares about what you're doing. And it's a kind of interesting...
But it's the perception, though, isn't it? It's the presentation of doing something. And I think FOMO factors in hugely, doesn't it? You know, the fear of missing out for the unacquainted. Fear is a very powerful thing, and it can motivate us into positive notions, but it can also drive us down dark alleyways. So that scenario, for example, and we all have this, you know, we all have people that we know or are connected with through the thick jungle of social media roots and tethers, and you open up your chosen poison, your Facebook or your Instagram, for example, and it's like, oh, bloody hell, there's so-and-so again. And they're just posting largely mundane, inane, bereft content, just almost for the sake of to post something. But what is interesting, I think, as you say, quite right, a lot of the time the consumer doesn't really actually care about what they're seeing, but it's more the notion of like the to be seen, you know? And I think it creates, there's almost like a domino effect. There's a circle of anti-life, if you will, or a cycle of anti-life where consumer then, person B, the audience, sees this post. So let's say, for example, on the back of New Year, they've seen this post of one of these people who were at Paris, but only through the metric, through virtue of the vortex they feed. Person B then almost feels like, oh, well, I need to share something about my life, or they look like they're having a great time doing this thing. Wow, they're at that amazing event in Paris, blah blah blah. What have I been doing? I need to show something so it looks like I'm doing something. And increasingly what you get is more and more people through the lens of the Facebook eye and that kind of theory, people that are living their lives to look like they're living their lives in lieu of actually living their lives.
It's crazy, isn't it? It's ironic, and they're all just like propping up this charade. It's creating a product for an audience that doesn't want it, but they feel like they need it and they need to sell it themselves. So it's just this big circle of perpetual narcissism and bullshit, and it fucking rubs me up the wrong way, man. Like, if we talk about society and where it's going. And I genuinely think social media has like corrupted society to its core. It has created a generation of people who can't comprehend life without a phone and without being able to capture every mundane moment and without being able to actually just enjoy things. To just it's a bit of a cliche, right? But just to live in the moment. And because people will record it, but then they'll realize actually, I didn't take it in at that time because I was so consumed with getting the perfect shot.
Yeah.
And then if you don't, and then that's the thing, if you don't get the social media post that you want, it almost then tarnishes the experience for you. If the pictures haven't come out right, they're not good enough.
It was for nothing.
Or the angle makes me look fat. Oh no, the lighting was all wrong. Oh,
yeah.
Oh, Mark, you took the portrait and I needed it landscape. You've ruined the holiday.
Yeah.
You son of a bitch. Oh God. Oh no.
How will I get those 7 likes now?
It's no one's gonna comment and tell me that I'm slaying. No, they're not gonna be able to see it, and you've ruined it. And I'm just gonna dump you now because relationships now are just something we can consume through dating apps. That's a whole different spiel. I'm not going to get into that today. I could do.
Well, please don't.
Well, the scope of this is just so large. I mean, I was saying before, when we were growing up, the internet, even just because social media and the internet are obviously inherently linked, the internet was like this other realm, this kind of place you could only access at certain, there were certain entry points to the internet. Like when I grew up, we had a home computer. That was the only way I could get on the internet, was going on the computer, right? And as a kid, you just sort of go play games and stuff, watch funny videos, that kind of sort of stupid kid stuff. But so so the internet was like this kind of, it was separate from the reality. It was a separate world.
Yeah.
But particularly through the use of smartphones and the rise of that, the internet now, it's not a separate world. It has become part of this world. It's sort of like the Matrix has slowly and silently amalgamated itself with reality, and we can't often distinguish between the two anymore. What is reality? What is this virtual world? We don't know anymore, and it's kind of like you can access the internet pretty much anywhere and at any time. And therefore you can access social media pretty much all the time. It's there, it's on your phone, and you carry your phone with you everywhere. So it hasn't left us, and it is now so deeply ingrained People can't go places without their phones.
Everyone is a junkie.
Yes.
You know, we're all waiting on that next notification, that next ping. And as you say, people can't go anywhere. You walk down any given street, really, the chances are you'll walk past someone that probably doesn't even realise they walked past someone because they're just glued to the vortex that fits in their palm.
We are going to have a generation of people with neck problems because they're just constantly hunched over looking at their phone, plodding along, completely oblivious to what's around them. Because I'm quite a fast-paced walker. I get so fucking pissed off when there's some slow cunt in front of me and they're just absorbed in their virtual world, watching their stupid little TikToks and they're trudging along the pavement. I was like, get out of the fucking way.
I mean, I live in Birmingham. You go into the city centre in Birmingham. Oh my lord! It is like you're wondering where Woody Harrelson is. You know what I mean? You're wondering where the double tap is at. One example I want to give you of what really boils my blood when it comes to this notion. I'm not a very religious man, but the one aspect of life I do have severe blinding faith in is music, is the gig, right? That's my church. And that it riles me so much. You go to see this band that mean everything to you, these guys that are prophets, and you do keep them in your pockets with your mobile phone. But you go to the gig, and all that you see is a sea of pixels lighting up because everyone wants to capture it. Exactly like you say, in lieu of actually enjoying that experience for what it is, actually engaging the first time. You know, all those times that you've sat there and you've listened to that album and you've dissected that moment and you've thought about how magical that riff is, or whatever it might be. You know, these really intimate moments that we cherish, and that's the one place where you think, you know, you're going to be surrounded by other people that share that same religion, that you're all here like as disciples, but actually no, they're not. They're here because, is it trendy to engage with this band and look like I've been to see them? Do people not trust their eyes? You know, I think that could be a part of it, but it really does sicken me. It's like, for a moment, enjoy. There's a gig that I went to 2 years ago. I went to go see Jack White in concert in Belgium, and he is just phenomenal as a musician, and in my opinion. But he operates a no phones policy. So when you go in, they give you a little bag that you put your phone in. So you still got it with you, but you can't actually use it. And it was so refreshing. It was so refreshing. And my memory of it might be a little hazy. Sure, my memory isn't the best. But the gig was incredible. And you could actually breathe in there a little bit, you know. And you looked around and everyone is just devoting their attention on the reason they've actually come to the gig.
That's nice. And the other thing as well, I was just thinking, like, when people do go to a gig and they post a video, who the fuck cares? Who cares? You know?
Exactly. I think that the only way that I would justify it or understand, if someone is genuinely recording as a memento for themselves, you know, this song means everything. Oh my God, they're actually playing that song. Let me record the beginning. I have actually done that in the past once. I remember seeing While She Sleeps and they started playing You Are We, and it was just like goosebumps, like, fuck. And I just felt like, oh my God, this is a memory I do want to come back to. And periodically, I have gone back and watched it. Yeah, it delivers those same goosebumps. It transports you back there. And it's almost like that's, I suppose I'd say that's what the correct application of this, but then I just sound very narcissistic myself, don't I?
No, I mean, no, there is, of course, you know, it is acceptable to take photos for yourself and to take videos to sort of have memories of a particular experience. You know, if I go on holiday, of course I want to get a couple of pictures. Yeah. Mostly I send them to my mum or something. Like, yeah. I haven't had Instagram. I have had it in the past. My name's Tom. I am a former Instagram user, but I'm now in
in recovery? I'm
in recovery. Yeah. I deleted it back in 2021. So it's 2022. 2022. Yeah. Tell a lie. And it was quite liberating, and but I have had Instagram before, and you know I used to post pictures of stuff that I'd done, and I have myself had a bit of a Facebook eye where I've sort of crafted posts in my mind before doing things. But I don't, and I still take pictures. I don't really have anywhere to post them per se. I mostly do it. I have a keen interest in photography as well. When I lived on the Isle of Skye, that's a photographer's dream.
Yep.
I think part of the problem, I actually blame Instagram for the reason there's too many tourists on the Isle of Skye. They all go there to take their fucking Instagram pictures, and they will drive slow as shit because they're filming as they're driving along. And it is beautiful, but I used to get so fucking frustrated. The Dutch were the worst. I'm calling out the Dutch now. Worst fucking drivers. They all drive like grandmas, slow as shit. I'm just trying to get places. And I'm stuck behind these cunts who are just cruising around. Oh my god, it's so beautiful. Wow, it's the Isle of Skye. I don't care. I want to get to this fucking location so I can enjoy a hike. I used to go on these hikes and I used to get so wound up. By the time I used to just steam up these mountains. I'd be like...
You were the volcano in Skye.
Fuck me, I was like a rocket up those motherfuckers. Like, I'd go on like Walk Highlands, which was like my Bible for like good hikes in Scotland, and it would be like 3-hour estimate to get to the top. I'd be up that bastard in like 1.5 hours because I'd just burn off so much steam. I'd get to the top, there'd be no one there, and I could actually then just breathe and be like, whew. But interesting anecdote from when I lived on the Isle of Skye, there's a place called the Fairy Pools. Probably the biggest offender for Instagram. Everyone wants to get that shot. And it's like, my God, there's so many pictures of the fairy pools. We don't need any more. Why do you need your own? But anyway, some bastard died at the fairy pools whilst taking a selfie. He was taking a selfie. He fell into one of the pools and hit his head and was unconscious and drowned. And it's like, he actually died for a selfie.
He died for the gram.
He literally, he lost his life for I assume the gram. It could have been Facebook. Who knows? But he was taking that selfie probably to post somewhere to be like, hey, I'm at the fairy pools. Cost him his life. And I remember thinking that, I was just like, wow. Like, it's actually a point now where social media is... I mean, there's other ways in which I'm sure social media has like caused people to lose their lives because it's so bad for our mental health.
Well, what's interesting about that example, though, you mentioned about the impact on the traffic, right? And that is a very, very tangible aspect because Skye is a small isle, isn't it? It's not really equipped for the amount of traffic that it now receives. And so it almost acts to strangle life on the island in other ways, makes everyone's day-to-day a lot harder. I imagine that the locals there are very...
Are a strange bunch on the Isle of Skye. I'm going to say island people, always a bit off. Most of them are alcoholics because there's not a lot to do there other than to drink. They're generally nice people. I had a good time on the Isle of Skye, but I think social media did make it like quite unbearable at times. People trying to get their pictures and stuff.
It equates to a loss of humanity as well, because it's a very you mentioned it's narcissistic. It very much is, isn't it? People will like push you out of the way, or as you say, someone's driving along and they're kind of thinking, yeah, but this is our road, this is our time to get this picture, this is why we've come at 7 o'clock or whatever time it might be. Reminds me of have you ever been to the Louvre in Paris?
I've not actually, no.
Okay, so I went there, and the irony where they've got all these magnificent artworks and creations on display. One of the most famous pieces they have is the Mona Lisa. The Louvre is a huge attraction for people anyway, and I think they do cater to that Instagram first audience, which, again, that's how it permeates through society, isn't it? Because you're a business of some sort, art gallery, restaurant, nightclub, whatever. You want to make yourself trendy enough for people to engage with, and like the Louvre to a certain degree do. And there's a compromise there, isn't there, in terms of the values with something like a gallery, a traditional gallery like the Louvre is anyway. So they've got the Mona Lisa on display there, and you queue up for ages to actually get into it, regardless, at the actual museum. And it's in a room where so you queue to get in the room, and then they have those zigzag kind of partitions so you can get to the front. It's actually quite a small painting in real life, and the second you get in that room, it's just phones out everywhere. But I've never seen people turn to rats so quickly. It was literally like everyone's fighting, nudging, pushing each other to be able to get a selfie of themselves with the Mona, not even just get an image of the Mona Lisa. It's the selfie. It's almost like it doesn't matter that you're staring at, the original creation of this world famous piece of art. Regardless of what you think about it, it is interesting to see in real life.
Yeah.
But it was actually such a harrowing experience to go and do. I was with my papa, my father, my dad, and that's just one of them actually. I don't have four, and he's I wouldn't quite say he's elderly, but he's not young. And there were a bunch of young females around us that were literally pushing him out of the way when we got right to the front, so they could get a selfie. And you think this is the way that it manifests, So, and people think that they're connecting more with one another in this virtual void. And the way they do that then is by, you look with much less respect and regard at the life around you to impress the synthetic life that you wish to engage with.
It's a disease, is what social media is.
It is.
It is a disease of the mind. That's really interesting, actually. And I think Da Vinci would be turning in his grave if he was to see that now.
Hot take. I think he'd be all about the selfies.
Well, I mean, he did do a lot. He did do a lot of self-portraits.
But there's class to that.
Yeah. That reminds me. I remember when this was when I lived in New Zealand. So
Another humble brag there.
I know I've travelled. I'm a well-travelled man. I remember going to Mount Cook National Park, and there was this couple there, and it was like the whole thing. But like Mount Cook National Park is beautiful. It's in the Southern Alps. It was summer. It was a really lovely day, and you just got these snow-capped peaks everywhere, and there's these beautiful glacial lakes or crystal clear streams. It's just lovely. It's just a beautiful place, just absorbing it. And yeah, I took a few photos. Nothing excessive. I got a few photos because it's such a beautiful place. Mount Cook, that is the highest mountain in New Zealand. That's quite impressive, but nothing excessive. Most of the time, I just enjoyed the walk. But there was this couple there, and the whole thing was it was almost just like a photo shoot for her.
Yeah.
I felt sorry for the boyfriend because every time they'd go ahead, and then I'd kind of catch up because they've stopped to take pictures. And weirdly, a lot of the pictures were like at the back of her. She'd be like sort of, you see those bullshit pictures.
Yeah.
It's a particular traveller type of picture where it's kind of like they're sat on like the edge of like a precipice, and then there's this view, and they're like looking at the view, and he must have had in his camera roll like hundreds of images of the back of her with the beautiful mountains in the background. And I'm like, are you actually just going to enjoy the scenery, or is this just a photo shoot for you? And weirdly, I saw them before as well. At a separate part of that day, I'd been to a place in Twizel where they filmed the Battle of Pelennor Fields in Return of the King, and it's close to there's like a lavender farm around there. I remember like seeing him having to take pictures of the same fucking type of picture at the back of her with like all these rows of lavender.
Wow.
Bushes.
That's
lavender. Is it lavender crops? I don't know.
Yeah.
But I was like, fucking hell, man. I feel sorry for this man.
So this is the question, Tom. Is that love?
I don't think it is.
That's
it's
a
narcissism.
PA. That is a PA. That's what that is.
I would not. I'd happily. I used to take pictures of my ex-girlfriend. Yeah, Instagram I think is particularly the worst when it comes to sort of narcissism.
There's a term for that particular brand of photo that I remember an ex of mine touting quite proudly, where she would call it, the colloquialism for it was candid but planned. So we plan to make it look that organic, that real. Also reminds me of a lyric of one of my favourite UK rappers, Mr. Lee Scott, where he braggadociously chants, "I stand in front of any breathtaking scenery and complete the picture," which is a great line in itself, but I think it's very apt, particularly considering the subject matter. And I think, ironically, so many people genuinely do they do believe that, don't they?
Yes.
You see.
Absolutely, and it's just the sort of falsity of it as well, isn't it? Like so much people like lap up stuff they see on social media, but a lot of it's so carefully crafted, so sort of like maliciously staged. It's awful. It's all just a lie.
It's constantly manufacturing these false realities and standards and expectations, so that real life is never going to match up, is it?
No.
So increasingly, people's lives, as we sort of said earlier, are migrating further and further onto this void where where that can live out.
And I feel like every time they do this, they sort of become a little less human.
Yeah, you lose 1% of yourself every selfie,
Yeah.
kind of thing.
And I think one of the worst things now is like, you see sort of parents, because we're in that generation now where parents are sort of raising kids and all they document their child's life basically. Like, oh, this is little Johnny's first word, and look, he's walking now, and then that behavior is obviously going to be ingrained into the children. These children are going to grow up in a world where documenting every single thing is just normalized. First day of school, first football game, first whatever.
Eating a yogurt at lunch.
Yeah, just like really mundane. And I fucking hate kids. I don't want to see anyone's dumb little kids on the timeline. Don't show. I mean, I try and stay off social media. Unfortunately, it is my want because as a sort of trainee journalist, you kind of have to use it. It is unfortunately a good resource for finding stories. Not Facebook. Facebook's a bunch of bollocks. X is okay. I don't mind Reddit either, but I do have to use it. And when I see that shit, it just makes me like, I just kind of want to be sick. I just want to throw up. And it's just, I hate it so much.
It is very damaging, isn't it? For... All right, so you wonder, think about the extent of where these things go and how they manifest. How many people do you think have had children to think, oh my God, wouldn't it be incredible for my platform, for my portfolio, that I can spiel out this never-ending script of content of, look at little Jack, I don't really care. But I think, as you say, it's one thing that the generations now have this learnt behaviour that's become so ingrained, but for generations that have grown up with like social media adoring parents, and it's literally that is their normal. That's worrying as a thought.
Yeah, they're gonna grow up to have a really warped perception of reality and life. They're not gonna be able to just enjoy like going on holiday. They're not going to be able to enjoy going to, a football game, going on a night out, just going for like a meal, going for like a pizza, going to the cinema, whatever it's going to be. They're going to have this compulsion to record that and to post it, wherever it may be. I mean, we don't know what future platforms are going to... Obviously, like, if we had this conversation, like, 3 years ago... No, maybe a bit longer than that. Maybe, like, 5 or 6 years ago, we wouldn't even be talking about, let's say, like, TikTok.
Yep.
That's sort of a relatively new one.
That's interesting. That's the first time we've mentioned this.
I know, we've got quite far. I mean, it's because I refuse to use TikTok. I actually had... This is kind of twisted on my course. We had a guy come in to, like, teach us how to make sort of newsy TikToks.
Yeah.
For, like... And he was quite interested in what he said. He just said, like, the vast majority of... Most people actually get their news through social media now.
Yeah.
So it's inherently linked. But he said most people just don't have the attention spans to read news articles. They need it like that. They need it in these 30-second videos. Even that is like he said like a minute is like a push. Because most people will just scroll down to the next thing.
Yeah.
It's just corrupting our minds. It's like, no one can sit and concentrate on anything anymore. What bugs me, when I love going to the cinema. I go quite a lot, and like I hate it when I'm at the cinema and I see like a phone screen light up like partway through a film. It's like, can you just not sit through a fucking film for like 2 hours or whatever without looking at your screen? There's a big ass screen in front of us.
Yeah,
that's what we should be looking at. It's awful. It's like it's the same. I remember going to like football games and stuff, and then there's people like sat on their phones. They're not even watching the game. You're not even watching the film. It's like you've paid money to be here. One thing I always liked about Old Trafford, actually, the football stadium, not the cricket stadium, was it was a real dead zone for like phone signal. So I could never get 4G at Old Trafford, which I really liked actually, because then it meant.
Well, it forces you to focus on the actual event, doesn't it?
Yeah.
I think that's the Jack White theory.
I commend that. I would do this. I'd do a similar thing.
I would love to see more artists do the same. Yeah.
Live in the moment. Just It's like there are a few redeemable features of social media. I do, okay, interconnectedness. I'm able to keep in touch with people, who I've met on my travels that I otherwise wouldn't have. Half the time I don't really care, but there's a couple of people I like to keep in contact with. And it can sort of get into the right communities. It can sometimes present certain interesting things, but I think generally the negatives far outweigh the positives, because I think most people just don't use social media in a particularly healthy way. And it's interesting that there's a stat here I'm looking at. Apparently, almost 70% of Gen Z say that social media makes them feel stressed, anxious, and depressed. Yet, of the same generation, over half of them want to be influencers. It's very paradoxical there. So, and that's something I think a lot of the time we recognise that social media is generally not good for us. It's not good for our mental health. It's not good for our physical health as well.
But it sucks us in.
Every time they try and pull me out, they just pull me back in.
Nice. Yeah.
You just can't get away from it. It's like it's you know what it makes me want, Andy? It compels me to write a little piece. When did you last put your face in a book? When did you last hear the birds tweet? When did you last listen to the tick-tock of the clock? When did you last play Snap and chat? No post on Sunday, no posts today. Satan hath come in a cunning guise. He brings likes and comments and heart emojis. You taketh them without question, yet in return he asks for your life. My life? My life do you want? Yes, the devil answers. Your hopes and dreams, your insecurities and anxieties, your weaknesses and your fears, and your insatiable vanity. He offers you followers and reposts, empty praise and glittering icons. I accept your trade, you reply. The devil takes his bargain and flees into the underworld, into the doldrums of fiery lakes and toxic fumes. There the true ruler of hell sits atop a throne of skulls. The devil bends his knee and offers up a fresh soul to his master. Well done, Lucifer, he says, as he reaches out and snatches the soul. He sucks it up, savouring its flavour. The quality of souls has lessened of late, but it nourishes him for now. Go, and get me more souls, he commands, and the devil does go. Alone in his chambers, the ruler of hell dwells on his empire. I have Facebook, Instagram, and WhatsApp, but how do I get them all? That space nerd took X, and I'll be damned if the metaverse doesn't work. Mr. Zuckerberg strokes his hairless chin as he awaits more souls. His hunger will never cease. He is restless.
So, if I'm not mistaken, there you seem to be inferring that Mr. Zuckerberg is a devil.
No, he's worse than the devil, Andy. The devil was at least, an angel at one point. I'm inferring that the devil now has been supplanted by Mark Zuckerberg. Mark Zuckerberg, he leveraged a hostile takeover of hell with his billions, and he went in there, and now he's the ruler. He's Geppetto, controlling the puppets.
He has the keys to Gehenna.
He is literally. I think he is on a quest for world domination. It's ridiculous. I mean,
I don't blame him, but you know what? I think he's a nice chap, and I'd love to meet him and get a selfie with him. So next time you're out and about, you're walking down the street, just have a think. How many zombies do you see? Next time you're at the restaurant and, you're sampling the lovely cuisine, how many around you are not there for that at all, but just to capture it for the gram?
Yeah, and if you do see people walking down the street, not looking where they're going, just slap their phones out their hands. Just slap him, throw him on the ground. You know what? I got my phone now. I'm gonna smash this.
I'll do it as well, Tom. Let's do it in solidarity for Jeremiad. 3, 2, 1.